Wait. Did you trade it for a microphone?
I didn't, no. Unfortunately, no. And let's go live on Facebook. Okay, live now. Okay. Ugh. Weird. Okay. All right, well, apparently it won't let me go live on Facebook because of something about APIs. I'll have to look into that later. Oh, well, I guess I'll just get the recording of you, Brad. Sorry. All right. Let's see. We've got about 12 people here. I'll keep an eye on things. I'll keep an eye on things to see if anybody logs in after we get started. But brethren, guests, thank you for joining us tonight. Tonight we have worshipful brother Brad Drew, who's a member of Lexington Lodge number 1 in Kentucky. You're currently a senior deacon, correct? Correct, Brad?
That is correct, yes.
And you're a past master of Latonia Lodge and currently serving as senior warden of William O. Ware Lodge of Research, the oldest research lodge in Kentucky.
Yes.
All right. Tonight's program, brethren, is entitled Selfishness, the Positive Impact on Modern Masonry. With that, Brad, I will kick things over to you. Brethren, if you can, please go on mute.
Perfect. Let me share my screen here. Okay, everybody should see that, hopefully. If you can, I get thumbs up. Perfect. So, let me get my notes up. All right, brothers. Well, first and foremost, I want to thank everybody for coming out. I want to thank Brother Kevin for the invitation. And obviously, virtually, things are a little bit differently, but I'm happy that I can join you tonight from Kentucky and present some education that is hopefully enlightening and create some dialogue and discussion and some thought. That's really the purpose of this presentation. I've really been looking forward to tonight, mainly because I've not had the chance to present this particular presentation virtually yet. Usually in this presentation, there's some back and forth with audience members and some dialogue and discussion. So hopefully we get to that after the presentation, but certainly want to thank Olive Branch Lodge for obviously your continued commitment to Masonic education, discussion, debate, hopefully, and then obviously further enlightenment. So I appreciate the welcome. And Brother Kevin, again, kind of my credentials, if they be. I would say, as a quick note, I want to thank the Grand Lodge of Virginia, specifically, as Lexington Lodge number 1 here in Kentucky was originally chartered by Virginia. So we were chartered as Lexington 25 in 1788. And then 12 years later, we decided to do our own thing. So we chartered the Grand Lodge of Kentucky with 4 other lodges. So to my Virginia brethren, thank you very much for our charter, but we're happy to be on our own for the last 200 plus years. I do want to point out just a couple of things that will kind of help align the presentation as we move forward. Professionally, my background is in leadership roles, so coaching, mentoring, employee development, growth of employees, and team leads. So I really have an interest in more of the applied side of kind of practice. Masonically speaking, my interests are really all over the place. So I enjoy research and education, history, but again, the applied side, the side of Freemasonry that I ask myself, how can we learn from our mistakes and make them better? How can we challenge our brothers to do bigger, better things? Why do we always do the way we do? And then I also really love membership statistics and data and all that kind of stuff. So I know I said John's name earlier, but he and I get along pretty well because we love data. So kind of who I am and really kind of the forward to this presentation is it is very much on the applied side of things. So hopefully you take something from this and then we can have a great chat afterwards. Usually this is about a 30-minute presentation, so we'll have some time for good discussion. I would start, obviously, any great Masonic presentation does have a disclaimer, and I would state that obviously my disclaimer, the comments, thoughts, and opinions here do not represent the statements or opinions of any Grand Lodge, jurisdiction, or solely the thoughts and opinions of the presenter, unless otherwise noted. Bottom line, brothers, I have a lot of opinions, And if anybody knows me or has chatted with me before, I love to share my opinions. So please understand that a lot of what we talk about or I'll present tonight are my own thoughts. So that we don't have nobody else to blame. And then also, as I move through the presentation, and I stated this a little bit earlier, I do like to have lively PowerPoints and presentations. It makes for a fun time on my end. So there's a lot of images, a lot of photos. And please be aware that everything presented here I found on the open internet. So none of it is secret information, none of it is hidden. Any photos of individual brethren or groups of brethren, I do want to let you know those are only from Kentucky. So those are brethren I found on Kentucky Facebook pages, which are open. And then for their privacy, I've blurred out faces. But when we get to that part of the presentation, you understand why I have those photos. So my presentation tonight, as Kevin stated, is titled Selfishness, the Positive Impact on Modern Freemasonry. And really, I would most likely would assume at least one of you are asking yourself, what does that even mean? How can being selfish be a positive thing? Really, brothers, I'm not here tonight to dig into why being selfish may be a good thing for you in your personal life. I don't intend to sit here in front of you and tell you that you should go back out into your normal lives and become more selfish or do more selfish things, because that's certainly not the intent. My hope tonight is really just to make you think, sit back, consider why being more selfish in certain areas of your Masonic journey can actually be beneficial to you, and what the positive impact could look like on that journey. So for tonight, kind of an agenda. It really looks like this. First, I'll kind of define what selfishness is by definition. I'll look at a couple expert opinions or thoughts on why this idea of being selfish is actually a good thing. And then I'll really discuss the dirty D's of Freemasonry, which I've coined as the do's and dress because we hate talking about them. And then look at some other areas of Masonry, such as the regalia, ritual, our fellowship, education, leadership. And then ultimately we'll end with this idea or this thought of the oxygen mask theory, which some of you may have heard or been familiar with before, but kind of the outline of our quick program tonight. So by definition, what is selfishness? Obviously, according to the dictionary, selfishness is the quality or state of being selfish, concern for one's own welfare or advantage at the expense of or in disregard of others, excessive interest in oneself. So really, first and foremost, none of that sounds positive, right? And when preparing my thoughts for the presentation and looking at that definition and looking at my slides and thinking over and over, how can I explain and spin selfish as a good thing? I really thought about how it will impact our lives in certain ways that we can grow from that. So, really being called selfish doesn't sound like a compliment. And if we look at the word chart here, we see words like arrogant and narcissist, greedy, ego. None of that, obviously, is a positive. So what I would do is kind of move into some expert opinions or thoughts, and really three books that I found or three articles that I found that kind of really reference why being selfish is a positive. The first Bob Rosen, who's the author of this book, Grounded, How Leaders Stay Rooted in an Uncertain World, says in his book, when you take care of yourself first, you actually show up as a healthy, grounded person in your life. So really what he's telling us here is that when we put ourselves first and we focus on our own health and well-being, we could become a better person in our own life. Makes sense. Edward Wilson, an author, states in his book on human nature that human beings appear to be sufficiently selfish and calculating to be capable of indefinitely greater harmony and social homeostasis. So true selfishness, if obedient to the other constraints of human biology, are the key to a more nearly perfect social contract. And really what he's telling us is that when we focus on being selfish in regards to all other aspects of our lives, we have a chance to become much more socially connected in a positive lens. And then lastly, Belgian painter and also researcher Eric Pevernaghi says, should happiness and success be hidden in view of misery and poverty around? Would it be a sign of selfishness and unintellectual behavior if we admit to a pursuit of happiness? Could it, on the contrary, not work out as a motivation and an incentive? When giving voice to our happiness, could it not be perceived as a positive challenge? And really here in this article that I read of his, he discusses how selfishness can be tied directly to our own pursuit of happiness. So some interesting thoughts when we kind of spin the needle on selfish as a negative connotation to a positive. Now, again, because I've had these conversations, normally somebody's still sitting here like, what in the world is he talking about? How does this relate to Freemasonry? What did I get myself into tonight? Well, let me start by sharing kind of a simple story. And most of you probably have a story just like this. If you know me or talk to me, I love stories. So I'll share another story later on in the presentation. But as a past master of my mother lodge, I'm also a past district deputy grand master and a past grand lodge appointed officer. I've had really the privilege to travel all over Kentucky and really outside of Kentucky as well, witnessing and being a part of Masonic ritual and degree work. And typically at any degree, and we've all most likely seen this at some point, after the degree's over, the new brothers sitting along the sidelines, we have crowds of men congratulate the officers, usually for mediocre ritual work. We applaud the men that rushed their lectures or forgot their lectures. And then finally, we get to the point of acknowledging the new brother after everybody else has been congratulated. So typically what I try to do as a visitor or a guest is I meet with that brother, pull him to the side, and I usually say a couple words of advice to him, I guess you could say. And usually it goes something like, congratulations, welcome to our fraternity. I'd remind him that in the beginning of this journey, he asked for the petition, he asked for membership. He asked for light or more light into Freemasonry, and he took his own steps into this journey. I also let him know that he's been a selfish Freemason really since the very beginning, and I would encourage him to continue that process of being selfish until the very end. And what I mean by this is that the journey of Freemasonry is his and his alone. It's not mine or another brother's or somebody else that recommended him to the fraternity. It is his only. So I tell him, I want you to focus on yourself, your proficiency, your education, your time as a Freemason. Excuse me. I think my wife's home. Sorry about that. And then I usually tell him, I can tell you, brother, how I've traveled and all the things that I've done in Freemasonry. And most brothers here can probably share those same types of stories, but nobody will travel the way that you will. So I encourage that brother to stick to his path, to create goals, and to enjoy his own version of Freemasonry, his journey. And then I usually pat him on the back and say good luck, and then I leave. And usually the reason I say that is to remind him that he took the first step into this journey. So why else do I say this to a new brother? Am I hoping to scare the new guy, to make him feel like no one else is willing to guide and direct him throughout this journey? Am I doing this to send him on his own and make him feel lost or alone? Not at all, really. The point of this is to let the brother know that he is in charge of his Freemasonry, his journey. And along the way, he'll certainly have more tools and mentors and guidance than he'll probably ever need, but he chooses the path, not us. He gets to be selfish at that part of his Masonic journey by sticking to his guns and starting his journey as he wishes. Usually I have to to the mediocre ritual. So as we know, Freemasonry is certainly an organization, and I'll say where many of us feel that we need to be selfless and put others first, day after day, year after year, decade after decade. Brothers, obviously, to be selfless, as we know, is an incredible feeling. It's a strong virtue that we should all follow in our lives. However, if we join the fraternity to quote unquote make good men better, then why are we always focused on everyone else first? If that was the case, and we really did that, wouldn't we change that saying that we love to say to we're focused on helping good men make other men better first? That's weird, but it makes sense. So really the purpose of that is, Masonically selfish isn't a scary thing. It's not something we should eke at or freak out about. And with that, I really want to spend some time as reviewing a few key areas of Freemasonry that we could all consider becoming more Masonically selfish. And again, that phrase becomes, comes off scary. Oh my gosh, we're becoming more selfish Masons. Our communities are going to hate us. Our grand lodges are going to be frustrated. Let's take a breath and we'll walk through this together, and I'll offer some insight on some certain key areas of the fraternity that becoming a selfish Freemason or adding in features of selfishness is actually a positive. So first, really what I want to do is talk about, well, let me step back. And what I would say is obviously, let's first realize that all things that encompass our Masonic journeys and even a Masonic lodge really should be a priority to anyone that's looking to become more Masonically selfish. With that being said, again, I have a couple key areas to discuss, but there's certainly more areas of Freemasonry that we can tie in some of these processes and items to. So I've compiled a small list. There's certainly more areas that we can connect selfishness to. And then what I would also share is obviously many of the areas that we'll talk about tonight, and I'll go over, you personally will be able to tie into your individual journey and then perhaps into your individual lodge journey. So thinking about your, Olive Branch Lodge or any other lodges you're affiliated with, you might be able to tie that into some of the aspects we'll talk about tonight. And that's great. That's really the point of my presentation. So I want you to think, I want you to react. I want you to take from this something that you can have a conversation with somebody somewhere else. So first, let's talk about the dirty D's of Freemasonry, dues and dress. Again, nobody really likes talking about these, and that's why I like to start with them. And as I said earlier in the presentation, so I'm going to share a series of images here. These images are all from brothers here in the state of Kentucky, and again, their faces have been blurred for their privacy. But what I'm going to do is share the images and just let them cycle through. I think there's about a dozen. And I want you to think, and again, we're not going to discuss these. I'm not going to go through each individual photo, but I want us just to look at these and think about their dress, think about what they're wearing. Think about, whether these brothers are being selfish in the way that they prepare themselves for their lodge or an event or a function. And again, as you and I know, dress is a hot topic for Masons. So let's just let this cycle through, and then I'll kind of chat a little bit about, dress in particular. So again, all from Kentucky, and these are within the last 2 years. And these are all Masonic events. So stated meetings, Grand Lodge functions, bib overall night. A lodge in Central Kentucky does that. These are all Grand Lodge officers that support those evenings. We have mixed coat and tie with bib overalls, shorts and flip-flops. Hopefully we've not seen that too often, but widow's sons, if you're familiar. And I would also share, brothers, as these cycle through, none of these are right or wrong. That's certainly not why I'm here tonight to tell you, but just want you to think about, are they being selfish in the way that they chose their dress for that certain occasion? And that's the last photo. That's Lexington Lodge at our installation last month. So, we hear time and time again, really, it's the inward, not the outward, or it's what's inside that counts. And I'm not going to go down that path tonight because we don't have the time really to discuss solely dress. But, I would agree, brothers, there's a time and place for jeans and a t-shirt, just like there's a time and place for tuxedo and shiny shoes. Your lodge and or Grand Lodge ultimately have a final decision in what you wear, if there's any such requirement put in place. Obviously, my challenge to you on this call would be, why are we not dressing our very best every single time we step into lodge? The thought here, and the hope, fingers crossed, is that over time, others will see the way that you dress. They may raise their eyebrows. They may even disagree with you. They may have some remarks outside in the parking lot after the lodge meeting, but hopefully, again, fingers crossed, 6 months down the road or a year down the road, that brother who has seen you and other brothers consistently dress and be selfish in the way that you present yourself are now coming to lodge in khakis instead of jeans, or they have a collared shirt instead of a t-shirt, or maybe they put on a tie for the first time. Bow tie, again, preferred. But that's really the hope here, is that we're leading by example, which is what as humans we want to do. And then again, I'd encourage all of us, we think about dress, to stay selfish, dress to impress. And again, I can almost promise that others around you will follow suit over time. So what about dues? When we think about dues, obviously you think about how can we become more selfish in the sense of our dues. Well, I put up some general questions here, and this is something I would just encourage you to think about. We can have the dialogue later, but ask yourself, what are you willing to pay in regards to your dues? Why are you willing to pay that? Would you pay more if asked or presented? Are you being selfish in making the decision on where and why you spend your money? It's not a bad thing. You should. And not only for dues for, our annual dues, but think about events and functions and dinners. Are we happy with what we're paying for? Is it not worth it? If not, why? I love this idea of, and a conversation I have often is, are we offering a value meal experience in regards to our dues and what we get out of them, or a 5-star quality experience? As a selfish Freemason, you get to make that decision. Are you attending lodge where you're only receiving a value meal experience? If you are, why? If you enjoy that, then great. But if you don't, there's other options. One of my favorite acronyms, and I put it on here as well, and this is an acronym that I use professionally often, is called WIFM, which means what's in it for me. It's a very selfish acronym. It's very selfish in just the general saying of what's in it for me. But something to think about is when you think about where your dues are going and why you're paying so much, I want you to think about what's in it for me. Are you getting out? Is your return on those dues worth it? And then lastly, I would share with you the comment that's actually also often shared by my own worshipful master at Lexington. And he states time and time again to our officer line, it's time to commit or demit. And that, again, is a very, very selfish thought. It's a saying, it's certainly in a different way, but it really encourages us to look at the decisions we make as individual Masons and realize, are we selfishly making the right decisions for our own journey? Regalia, lodge regalia. Really, in this area, when I talk about regalia tonight, I'm going to chat more about aprons. Obviously, the lodge regalia encompasses everything within the room for the most part, but for me, this is really a simple one to kind of talk about how we can become more selfish. And I would, again, want us to start with the thought of our aprons. So outside of typically officer aprons, jewels, collars, all that kind of stuff, lodges, for the most part, provide, let's say, white aprons for our visitors and guests, right? I would challenge all of us tonight to think, why are we depending on our lodges to supply those? Honestly, why are we relying on lodges to supply officer regalia? I know it's a crazy foreign thought for a lot of us because we've, for the entire time that most of us have been in Freemasonry, that's always been the case. But, I'm not sure who on this presentation has heard of, let's say, obviously stop relying on others, but Worship Brother Patrick Craddock, of the Craftsman Apron, he does a phenomenal presentation on the history of lodge regalia, specifically aprons. It talks about this idea that white cut aprons are really come about in the last 100 years. And prior to that, as far as we can look back and see, regalia and aprons were purchased and created by the individual brother. So when you hear that type of conversation or that presentation, or you think about individual personality, you really understand the importance of pride in our own lodge regalia, being selfish in what we want to display. And again, there's some states and some jurisdictions that allow certain things on aprons and all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, we a lot of jurisdictions have some freedom on what they can have on an apron, for example. I would obviously say that coffee stains, ketchup and mustard spots, torn pieces of cloth, certainly old regalia is absolutely nothing that we should be proud of. I've seen it time and time again in going into lodges where before I bought my own travel apron, I'd pick up an apron and the edges would be torn, or there'd be a coffee stain on the bottom flap or something. And it's embarrassing. And we should have more pride in our individual presentation. So, and obviously I commend, the hundreds of lodges across the nation, many of which I've been able to sit in lodge with, that take pride in lodge regalia. So they use proper suppliers, of which not all are super expensive, but they create specific items for their lodge to be very proud of. They keep them in great condition. They often ask visitors to supply their own aprons. There's a lodge right across the river from me in Cincinnati that visitors are required to bring their own regalia when they come, and that's great for that lodge. I would say, obviously, to many of the brothers on tonight's call, you probably have your own apron or a travel apron or something of the sorts. Or maybe you're an officer that has officer aprons at your lodge. And obviously I have 2 travel aprons. One stays in my car and one's in a formal apron case. But, to you of those on the call, maybe that don't have aprons, and I'm certainly not saying that, using a lodge apron is a horrible thing, but, being selfish in the way that we wear our lodge regalia, I'd certainly encourage you to go out and find a proper regalia supplier, contact them, show them some art or some symbols or something from Freemasonry that you really love and enjoy, and have them prepare something for you. My favorite apron is my travel apron. I think it cost me $40, and it's a plain white apron with a past master emblem embroidered on the flap. That's it. Never leaves my car. So what I would certainly say in regards to lodge regalia here is, obviously, don't always wait for others, and consider consider that the idea that you stop relying on others to provide something like that for you in lodge. And by waiting for others to provide something to us, again, as I stated earlier, it's really not the way that we've always done it. It's a new concept. So an idea of how to be selfish in our regalia. Ritual. I love ritual. I'm a ritualist. It's part of what I really enjoy about Freemasonry. So, when I think about this idea of how can I be more selfish in my own version of ritual, again, let me share a story. And this is a pretty quick one, but it helps tie things together. So I petitioned my mother lodge in 2010. And however, because of the process of my mother lodge and truly how we've always done it, I did not go through any of my degree work until 2011. In 2011, became a Master Mason. And then immediately after I went through my Master Mason degree, I was handed a ritual guide, which in Kentucky, we don't have standardized ritual. We have recommended guides, which are all Prestonian based, but I was given the guide and recommended to pick out a lecture or part of a degree that interested me and learn it. So ultimately I did that. I picked one of the hardest because I didn't know whichever one to pick. And somebody told me they needed somebody to learn one. So I picked out one, realized it was one of the hardest and longest ones. Set the expectation, however, that I'd love to learn it, but it wouldn't be anything I'd have, soon to do. And then, and really I was being selfish even by just setting those expectations, and I didn't realize it. So month after month, and eventually year after year, I went by, I studied, I worked my butt off. And finally, 3 years later, in October of 2014, I was asked to deliver this lecture in long form in the Master Mason degree. And I delivered it as best I could. I would certainly say, was it word for word? No. Was it rushed in some places and super slow in others? Absolutely. But did I give it my 150%? Absolutely, I did. And really, it was because I knew who that lecture for the degree was meant for. And I'd ask you, brothers, obviously, who is ritual meant for? Is it for our lodge so that we can oftentimes pat ourselves on the back that we finally have new blood and we can stay open and survive? Is it for the candidate in hopes that we help make him a better man? Is it for you, perhaps, maybe to be proud that you learned a lecture or ritual? Maybe a little bit of everything. But in reality, and again, my own opinion here, ritual work is mainly meant for the candidate or those candidates that we're bringing in. Quickly studying, last minute studying, reading from a script. Oh my gosh, it happens. At least here in Kentucky, I've seen it. Having prompt after prompt after prompt from the sidelines, which in most cases are typically wrong because the prompters don't know the ritual. These are certainly all ways to diminish the experience and remove the importance of the overall degree for our candidates. So I would encourage you, if you're asked to take part in any ritual, or even if you're not asked, seek out parts. I'd want you to be selfish in the way that you practice and study for that part. Don't worry about others in the degree that you think are going to mess up. Sometimes that happens to us. Really, it's not your place to worry about them. I'd encourage you to clear your mind, put your own learning first, worry about yourself, come to rehearsals and practices every single time ready to give 120%. Now, I can only imagine what it would be like if we had, for ritual, degree work, even just opening and closing a lodge, if every single officer, speaking and non-speaking, was as prepared and selfish in their preparation and practice of ritual for that occasion. That wouldn't be a 5-star experience. It would be a 10-star experience every single time. What about lodge fellowship? This one probably sounds strange, and it sounded strange to me as well. I thought about how can being more selfish increase or make lodge fellowship more positive. Brothers, the thought here is that if you're always looking for others to fill up your cup, aka your emotional needs, or even just make you happy, the question would be, are you really practicing Freemasonry right? I would certainly say putting yourself first, loving yourself, enjoying who you are will always help you live an enjoyable life. And I would ask you, are you always putting others first? Do you rely on others to make you happy? Are you uncomfortable with being vulnerable? If you say yes to any or all of these things, then I would definitely encourage you to call 1-800, put yourself first, because the reality is when other like-minded brothers come into the picture and they love and enjoy who they are, boom, I can only imagine the level of fellowship and experience that we could enjoy together. As a human being, it's obviously our job to take care of ourselves, and ultimately we're going to get what we need or we want. Relying on others to fill gaps in our lives causes us to become vulnerable, which is a good thing. Often brothers think that's not a good thing, and it really is. But by being selfish and enjoying Freemasonry as we wish is what I would say is just the cake. if we think about it that way, the fellowship and all the other stuff is really the icing on top. But we need to remember to take care of ourselves first, because we certainly can't pour from an empty cup. All right, all right, all right. Masonic education. So, obviously we're all here on the call tonight because realistically we want to become more selfish in some version of the education that we receive or we present. And what I mean by that is, well, let me ask, and this is not, you don't need to answer. I just want you to think about this. How many of you on the call tonight see another brother that's here, either by their face or their name, that you've maybe seen present somewhere else, either in person or virtually? I know that Olive Branch Lodge obviously is blessed in the fact that you host the monthly educational forums, and I applaud you for that. However, some of you visiting, or on the call may say, well, I don't know anybody other than one or two maybe of the small group that we have who's ever presented Masonic education. Hopefully you say every single person on this call is presented Masonic education. That would be awesome. The truth is, each of you, including myself, we're here tonight because we want to learn, we want to listen, we want to take something discussed and apply it to our Masonic life somewhere else, somehow, at some point. We're being selfish, and that's a good thing. And what I mean by that is we're taking ideas and thoughts from others to improve and enhance our Masonic journey, which is definitely not a bad thing. Now, that takes us back to the comment that I typically share with the new brother. They've been following the right selfish Masonic journey since the very beginning. My question is, why aren't others around us doing the same thing? And, what I would say and what I would offer up, just a few baby steps to perhaps become more Masonically selfish as far as education goes, would be some of these items. Read a book, listen to a podcast, register for a virtual event, write a paper, start a blog, review an article, take a class, have a discussion with others, and even join the Refracted Light Facebook page. Shameless plug. Now, brothers, I encourage you, and yes, at this point of the presentation, I'm speaking to each of you individually, to be the next person here presenting virtually or in person, or maybe reading a paper to your lodge, maybe sharing a thought or an idea with your closest brother if you don't like presenting in front of people. Write a reflection paper, go home tonight and think about the most important Masonic influence in your journey so far and share it with your closest brother. Open up some sort of dialogue and discussion. By doing any of these things on this list or any of those items just discussed, you're allowing others to be selfish and take from you what they can in order to improve or enhance their Masonic journey, just as you're doing the exact same and pulling from them. And just as hopefully later we have some dialogue and discussion, I can pull from each of you to help out with my journey and what I need in my education. I think I have a picture here. Yep. I always forget to click because I get so excited when I talk. And Masonic leadership. So lastly, I'll close out with this area, and an area really in which probably everybody on the call could think about becoming more Masonically selfish, whether you are in a leadership position or you're not, or you're considering it, or you want to. And I would certainly say, obviously, some love the idea of Masonic leadership. Some think it's a silly idea. I have to love the idea. Next year, I'll have the honor to serve as the chairman of our committee on Masonic education here in Kentucky, and our program for the year, which I get to co-write, is all about Masonic leadership. So I get to be really giddy and excited when I come to this topic. But when I think about leadership, I think about being selfish. Usually those two words don't go together. But the idea of being selfish as a leader really plays into the decisions that are made by individual brothers. Not all Masons, and we know this. And I'll put up Masonic Leadership 101 here. Not all Masons should be in leadership roles or positions, and that's perfectly fine. Some are put into those roles because they're forced or they feel obligated. Others are put into those roles because they're literally the only ones standing there. Some brothers don't ever wish to hold a chair in office, and that's great. They're selfish in a sense and making that decision as they know someone else could be a better fit or a better leader, or they still have time to brew. They need to learn a little bit more about leadership. To those that wish to become a leader in their lodge or Grand Lodge or pendant body, really should focus on being selfish as a crucial part of what I would call their lodge leadership application. They should stop worrying about everyone else. Really, stop it. You don't need to worry about anybody else. They need to understand that you'll never stop or make an impact to what I would call a title chaser, or somebody chasing after a cap or an apron or a badge. We won't win that fight, so stop worrying about it, because those people will always be around. We need to be selfish and surround ourselves with the right people in our lodge. As a leader, we need to be open to asking for help when it's needed, obviously. And then lastly, we need to set goals. And then after we've set those goals, we need to set some more goals. Focusing, I apologize again. All right, there we go. Sorry, I have two mastiffs and they just love barking. When we focus on our own success and this idea of becoming more selfish as a Masonic leader, initially, or not watching or listening to others actually may be a good thing for an upcoming leader. Too often, young leaders worry about everyone else, when really we should just focus on ourselves, focus on keeping our head down, achieving our goals. And when the time is right, you'll be the most qualified brother in the room. I think, in my opinion, if all of our brothers and our committee men and committee members, and heck, even active members, had the same sort of approach of focusing on themselves first, as they focus on their leadership and their qualities, again, 10-star experience. It wouldn't be a value meal experience in our lodge. So in closing, my brothers, I would reiterate, being selfish isn't a bad thing. It's not something we should worry about or move away from. If you think about your Masonic journey to this point, if you haven't even started, or if you've been in a year or 2 years, 10 years, 50 years, whatever that may be, think a little bit about what we've talked about tonight. And what I would ask you to ask yourself is, how are you already being selfish in your journey? What are you doing in your lodge or with your own brothers that shows you're putting yourself first? As a selfish Freemason, your journey will most likely be stronger and brighter. You'll be more confident in your abilities to deliver ritual, to present education, to spend time with your brothers, have uncomfortable conversations sometimes. And heck, you may be even more confident in your ability to present to brothers from around the country virtually on a random Tuesday night. So, selfishness does create a feeling of independence. And by experiencing this independence, you'll feel stronger in your lodge. You'll feel stronger in all that you do, while needing to worry less, and dare I say, expect more of those around you. So I leave each of you with this thought tonight of this oxygen mask theory. So when we're on an airplane and there's an emergency, obviously the pilot and the crew don't instruct us to take the oxygen mask and help our neighbors first, and then afterwards fit our own, because that was the case, we'd all die. We're told to fit our own mask first, to be selfish in that moment for a reason, so that we can help our neighbors and ultimately keep everyone alive. So I would want you to stop and think, become selfish, apply some of the principles, ideas, thoughts, maybe that we talked about tonight to your journey, or reflect on what are you already doing in your journey that you didn't realize or look at as being selfish. Because again, brothers don't look at the way they dress or what they pay, or how they do ritual or practice as a selfish thing, but really it is, in my opinion. And I would encourage you all to continue to create your own path, because it is yours, not anyone else's. So with that being said, brothers, that is my presentation. Those are a lot of my opinions and thoughts. I thank you for your time, your attention. I welcome any agreement, disagreement, or words. And at that point, Brother Kevin, I will flip it back to you. Thank you.
Brad, thank you very much. That was a great presentation. And yeah, that the airline oxygen theory was, of course, what was going through my head the entire time. And to me, it's life is a balance, right? And I think, as you've noted, selfishness kind of plays into that, right? Like we try and balance ourselves between selfishness and selflessness, right? And I tend to agree. You do have to have some sort of selfishness, because if you don't have yourself, your mind, your health, your life in order as a Freemason, how are you able to help newer and other Freemasons in their journey, as we say, to become a better man? So yeah, it's a perfect analogy for it, because I think you know, as I said, everything's in balance. And if it, you know, we live between those getting out of balance either way, right? And if you focus too much on helping others, you lose focus of yourself, and in a way you become unhealthy. And the same goes the other way. If you focus too much on yourself, you get too selfish. Again, you're not mentally unstable, but you know, you're out of balance. You're unhealthy. So it's a matter of staying in balance, as I said, so gracefully. So thank you. That was outstanding.
Thank you.
Cheers.
And I would also share, and I usually say this at the beginning, and I guess I was too excited to mention it. So the whole idea of this selfishness came, didn't just come to me one day. So I wrote an article for my valley here in Northern Kentucky. And it was a very short article, but it was titled "The Yes Man," because we all know those guys that just say yes to everything and they put everybody else first and they want to do everything for everybody. Some of those are guys chasing titles and caps and all that jazz. And that's really where my article went. But, I got to thinking, I had really good discussions with brothers around this thought of, a lot of times guys, because we get into this fraternity where we want to give back and we want to do so much for our community and our brothers and our families and our youth groups and all that stuff. And all that's incredible. I'm involved in all of that. It gives me warm butterflies in my stomach when I do that stuff. But, then I come home and I crash mentally because I'm like, oh my gosh, I've just spent the last 6 months doing everything and anything for everybody else. And I forgot to take care of myself. And that was really where, that from that article created really good dialogue and a couple meetings, master craftsman meetings with the Valley, where I got to talking. I'm like, oh my gosh, this whole idea of we need to be selfish. And I had some brothers that told me up front, like, what the hell are you talking about? Selfish is like a bad thing. Why you don't want to be selfish? I'm like, well, yeah, in a sense, like, I'm not going to go out there and be selfish and not, follow through with my obligation or the things that I promised to do to brothers. But on the other end, like, I need to take care of me. I need to focus on, what makes me happy, because if I'm not happy in Freemasonry, then I get burnt out or I just leave or I demit. And that's where a lot of these kind of areas that I touched on tonight, which again, I could elaborate on each of those for another hour, popped in, the way that I dress, where do I spend my money and why do I spend my money that way? What does my education look like? And, my ritual, my regalia, and just certain things. And I give this presentation credit, I give credit for this presentation to a lot of the brothers from those discussions because, it all stemmed from an article about being the yes man. And we don't take care of ourselves enough. So.
I agree. And, in going to the dues topic, and I bring that up because we had a conversation on that in our Valley meeting this past Friday. Of course, the dues topic is ever a contentious topic in any Masonic meeting, right? Like, it just is. And, it's a balance of how do we, we have two gentlemen here, CJ and Don, who are potential petitioners of the lodge. And, American Freemasonry prides itself on being an organization of every man, right? Regardless of your station in life, that's what we pride ourselves in being. And that's not necessarily the case when you go to other countries like Great Britain, for example, and, Europe, basically anywhere in Europe, it's a lot different. So, that pops up in a lot when you have these discussions. And it is a tough topic because on one hand, you want to serve, you do want to be able to cater to every man in your community. And if someone is genuinely a good man, you want them in your lodge. But on the other hand, if the lodge isn't getting the funds it needs, it's going to wither and die eventually. It's a fact of life. Again, it's living between that balance of not going too far one way or another. And I see Xerxes is unmuted, so I'll stop talking and I'll let Xerxes because I'm pretty sure he has a thought. So Xerxes.
As you all know, I travel quite a bit, and from Scotland to Ireland and to England and all over the place. And I spent some years working in Europe. When I leave the United States, and I've said this 1,000 times, I think, or at least it seems like it, here in Mississippi, because the dress is so poor. You talk about t-shirts and blue jeans, and it's atrocious how they dress to come to lodge. They have absolutely no respect for themselves, and I'll get to that in a minute. But when I leave here to go to Europe, I carry a dark suit, 2 shirts, and 2 ties. I carry tuxedo, 2 shirts, and 2 bow ties. Okay, because that's what's expected in the attire in Europe. When I go to South Africa to hunt, and I go to lodge in Cape Town, which, by the way, they're very nice brothers down there. They're very accommodating. I carry the same thing. And so I asked a Grand Master here in Mississippi why the dress code had gotten so bad here, and why when you go to Royal Arch and Council, nobody's wearing an apron, and all these questions. And the answer he gave me was, well, Xerxes, people down here are poor. Well, let me tell you something. Masonry was not made for poor men. It was never designed for poor men. Poor men cannot support the community things that you need to do as a Mason, the Masonic Lodge needs to do in their community, i.e. Boy Scouts, ball teams, helping the poor, helping the widows. You can't do that if your members can't throw out a little extra money throughout the year. If they can barely scrape together $30 a year for dues, I'm telling you, we've lowered the standards too far. A lot of good men. I'm not arguing the fact that they're good men, but they can't support the lodges. And the lodges are crumbling. Yeah, I can drive around, not just in Mississippi, but all around this country. Lodges are crumbling. They're no longer the beautiful building in the community that people looked at and said, oh, wow, I wonder who those guys are, you know? And, and young men, they come to the lodges and you know, when the master's sitting up there in a pair of blue jeans or a t-shirt or a shirt that's pulled out of his, doing the 3rd degree, I've seen this. 3rd degree, he's got a t-shirt, got a shirt on, he's got it out of his belt, and he's spitting tobacco in a cup every 5 seconds. So, you know, we've lowered the standards. That's the problem. We've lowered the standards to get enough people in to pay the dues, to pay the bills. And that's the problem. It's a huge problem. And it's not just Mississippi. I hear this from brothers across the country. We have to raise our standards. We've got to raise the standards. We've got to go back. And I look at the old lodge records from Hattiesburg Lodge back in the early 1900s, and they put in the minutes who they rejected. And it's not 1 or 2, it's 2 or 3 a month. They were much more selective than they are now. We're so concerned about getting people in to pay the dues, to pay the bills. We got to turn around, or else we're dead in the water, boys. That's all there is to it. That's my say. Thank you.
Thank you, Xerxes. And it's a hard point to listen to, and I'm sure say, but it's, you know, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Tim Schrum.
So, evening, brothers. Brad, I really enjoyed your presentation, and I'm kind of agreeing with Xerxes here and what you said about the dress part. But I would say that there are plenty of good men who, if they petition the lodge and they come into the lodge and for some reason they need a little help, or I've been one of them. Early on in my career, I was had really had some difficult times via divorce or whatever, and at one point somebody paid my dues, and I'm not afraid or embarrassed to admit that. Now I think I could pay my dues, but regardless of that, I would say that, you know, I've never seen a Masonic situation where if a brother's going through a hard scrape in life or whatever, he or he cannot get help with his dues. On the flip side of it, once that situation is remedied, and we're talking, you know, I don't know about what it is in Mississippi or in Kentucky, but here in our area, we're talking anywhere from $100 to $200 a year for dues. I can imagine that somebody can find that if they have enough respect for the institution and or need some help, then they should reach out. Second part is to say about the dress, you know, it really does make a difference on how you're perceived, whether you like it or not. And we see it in the workplace and we see it in a lot of other places. That doesn't mean that the tuxedo needs to be from Nordstrom's, or it doesn't mean that the suit needs to be from Hart, Schaffner, and Marks. On the flip side, you know, there's a lot of opportunities to get tuxes from places down south. I get one for just to have from a utility perspective to back my main tuxedo up. And, you know, it cost me $50, $100. It really does. So the point in all of this is, guys, is the fraternity has a lot of great people that will help each other in a New York minute. And it won't be disclosed if somebody needs a little boost with their dues or a little boost with their clothing or whatever. But on the flip side, I think it's incumbent on us to exude a level of decorum and a level of respect for the institution and a respect for ourselves.
And professionally, and many of you probably heard the same saying, you know, in my world, I use the the phrase, it's a skill versus will issue, you know, and it kind of goes hand in hand with Masonry. You know, it's a lot of what we see. So the dress and the dues and the respect to everything, respect to ritual, to respect to our brothers, respect to our buildings, you know, it's a will issue. I mean, I think to Xerxes' point, you know, there's probably, I don't know, more than half of the Masons in the United States have the ability to pay their dues, buy a suit, prepare themselves for ritual or for a presentation, do all of these things, but it's purely a will thing. You know, and I personally think some of that is because we've just continued to hand down this crap torch each generation. You know, and we're not teaching guys the right ways to do things. You know, so I blame myself sometimes for the stuff that I've seen and whatever. But yeah, I think it's, you know, it's a will issue for a lot of this, because you're absolutely right. I mean, my first, you know, when I was senior warden in 2015, it's the first time I ever had a dark suit. It came from Goodwill. Because I was just because I'm a big guy. I'm 6'3", I'm a 54 long, like, you know, suits are not cheap for me. And I was a single dude at the time and did not have a lot of money. So, you know, I found a matching suit in Goodwill and had my grandma hem it up a little bit. And I wore that probably for 3 or 4 years until I lost a bunch of weight and then it didn't fit anymore. But yeah, I mean, I think respect is a big thing. Absolutely.
Well, and Tim, I think you identify a really, you know, and this kind of goes to, you know, we hear a lot of talk in society these days of masculinity, right? And I think, you know, I think one of the things we teach is, you know, as men, you know, men aren't supposed to be vulnerable. We're supposed to be the breadwinners. We're supposed to be strong and show a strong front, right? And to ask for help is kind of ingrained in us to be almost a difficult thing to do, when, you know, it shouldn't be. You know, we all need help at one point or another. Doesn't matter what it is, you know, whether it's paying for dues, it's help at work, we all need help eventually. None of us are perfect. None of us can do everything. At some point, we need help with something. And, you know, we go through life, you know, taught to, you know, we've got to be strong. We've got to put on a strong front and just figure it out. So got a little one knocking at the door. Hi, sweetheart.
Well, this
Say hi to everybody. No, it's too late.
Kevin and brother, if you ask brothers around the world what their dues are, I mean, I attend Espero Lodge in Rome, and it's like 1,600 euros to join, and it's like 1,200 euros a year for dues. Now convert that into dollars. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And basically, I hate to say this, but it's a weeding process. And they've weeded out the individuals who can't support the widows and the community projects and other items. And so what we did here in Mississippi, this started about 2.5 years ago. There's a group of us who are just absolutely, we're tired of the direction that it went. And one of the past Grand Masters told me that the past Grand Masters are the ones to blame because they allowed this to happen and didn't curtail it. And just a sidebar here, about 10 years ago, Hawaii had this problem where brothers were showing up in flip-flops and Bermuda shorts. The Grand Master called all the masters together and they had a sit down. And he said, we have to change this. You go to lodge in Hawaii today, it's coat and tie. I can tell you, I was stationed over there for 5 years. It was always a nice aloha shirt and a nice pair of slacks. But today, it's coat and tie in Hawaii. Can you believe that in Hawaii? I mean, nobody wears coat and tie even to work in Hawaii. But so we took the charter, a group of us did, from a lodge that was demitting, that was turning in their charter. And we have turned that around. It's now $1 a day for dues. It's 2 times that for your dues. You get your first degree free, your fellow craft and your master's for $365. You must remain a fellow craft, an entered apprentice for 1 year. During that time frame, you learn the junior deacon's part. You learn your catechism, and you come and you to the dinners, and you basically act like a steward. You become a fellow craft, you must spend 6 months as a fellow craft. You must learn the senior deacon's part for the fellow craft and the entered apprentice and your catechism. So it's a little tough, but all of us are all past masters and we know that. But we're demanding of it because we want to raise the bar. Now, the other thing is, Brad, to go to what you talked about, is education. I think education is one of the most lacking things in Masonry today because Masonry at one time was where the thinkers, the doers, and the philosophers were at, and fantastic stuff came out of old Masonry. Okay, today what have we got? We got gibberish. Go pay the bills and go home. That's all you've got. So it's mandatory in this lodge that every man must give at least a minimum of 1 lecture within a 24-month period. And there's lectures all over the world. You can go get a lecture and modify it and enhance on it and give it to the brothers. Okay, so there's lectures that have to be done. The dress code is a dark suit, and if we do degrees, it's in tuxedos. So now, as a result, like 5 lodges in the immediate area, all the officers are wearing coat and tie, and those officers are now giving lectures in their lodge. So I think we've made an impact, and I think we're starting to change. Somebody's got to take that ball and run down the court, and I challenge all of us to do that. And that's where we're going. I'm like you, Brad. I have an opinion for everything, but we decided not to sit on our duffs and complain about it. We're taking that ball. We're going to other lodges. We're going with a coat and tie. We're going with a suit. We're going prepared with a lecture. We go in there. We stand up. We give an impromptu little 5-minute spill to the brothers in that lodge about something that I guarantee you they don't know. So take the initiative and run with that ball. Thank you.
Thank you, Xerxes. Scott.
I have 2 little tidbits to add to that. Xerxes, you were talking about the Boy Scouts and a uniform and Masons in formal business attire. Just a side note, the Lord Baden-Powell, who was a founder of the Boy Scouts of America, required scouts to wear a uniform. And one of the reasons for the uniform was not only just pride and esprit de corps and all that, but it also set an environment that you couldn't tell an individual that didn't have enough cash flow to be a part of a group or the rich guy who could afford everything. So when you're all dressed up in the same thing, it eliminates that situation. The second, all on the same level. And the other thing that I was going to say is a little bit of a story. There's a bunch of guys here that do know me real well. I just had the pleasure of raising my son, and he one of the things that I did was a little family tradition. My father, when I was a young adult, looking for light in masonry, took me out and actually assisted me in getting my first formal business attire. And I did that to my son. My son was like, "Dad, why do I have to wear a complete suit, shirt, and tie to lodge?" And I said to him, I said, son, you're entering an adult man's world. And this is where we learn, and this is business attire for the business world. And if you look back in time, even to our parents and our grandparents, they were in shirt and ties 7 days a week, in the old days, especially. So, I look like a redneck right now. But I take pleasure in putting on my business attire or my commandery uniform, whatever the moment brings. I grew up just outside of New York City, so I can put on the polished look if I need to. But excellent presentation, Worshipful Brad.
Thank you.
I can attest for Scott putting on polished attire, by the way. And
I
will do.
I was just going to tell him I love two things that he talked about. One, the tradition, because that makes me think like, let's say you have 5 or 6 or 7, hopefully more generations of your family that, continue that same tradition of purchasing the outfit. At some point in time, somebody's going to say, and I love it. They're going to say, well, why do we wear this suit and tie? Or why do we wear these items? And somebody from your family is going to be able to say, well, that's how we've always done it, son. And that's going to be so cool.
Right.
But two, you're talking about, I'm from Kentucky, so I'm in a collared shirt and a coat jacket right now, but I'm wearing Carhartt coverall pants on right now. So I understand that we got 12 inches of snow outside. So I told Kevin I was on daddy duty tonight. So I was outside playing in the snow before dinner, and I just popped on a shirt because it's virtual. But I appreciate your comments, brother. Those were great. Thank you.
I was going to say, I'm a bad example of that these days. I'm being a guy in the tech industry, t-shirts and jeans all the time. So I'm not in business attire. Lodge is the only place I'm in business attire anymore.
It's not just lodge. Even if you go to worship on Sunday at church, you can see the attire in the church environment has actually decreased as time has gone by.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's society. I mean, it's a societal
Becoming more
shift.
leisure.
Definitely. Yep.
Yeah, the attire, the written statement in Mississippi some years ago is you wear the same attire you would wear to church. And I can tell you there's some churches around here my wife and I have visited that I wouldn't let my daughter out of the house dressed like that. And, so that's gone by the wayside. And but we've had the past Grand Master, the previous Grand Master, brought up an edict that had been issued about 10 years before from a Grand Master here in Mississippi, that it would be a pair of slacks, at a minimum, a pair of slacks and a collared shirt. And the backlash from that was just atrocious. And I could not believe it. I absolutely could not believe it. And so I understand what you're saying, Scott. You'd like for people to dress up, decent, and go to church decent, and not look like a streetwalker, or her pimp, so. But anyway, I'm glad to see Raymond Bacchus is on here. You're a little late, but I know where you were at.
Worshipful, thank you for admitting me this evening, and
You're welcome.
my worshipful Xerxes, it's good to see you, and my brother-in-law, it's good to see some. Look at that, Scott. That face is red, brother. That you got a big smile on. I love it. It's good to see you, and Tim, all y'all. It's good to see my brothers this evening, and I appreciate the opportunity to join you and be on. I did ask your worshipful master if he would allow me the honor of receiving an invite in the future directly so I can join your meetings. I'd be happy to. I'm sorry I missed the presentation, Brad. I understand it was a good one, and I'm sorry that I missed it. I was in my family lodge meeting, which is in under UGLE, in Guyana, and that was wonderful. We meet every month on the second Monday, and COVID that way has been good because UGL has actually adjusted their policies and a lot there. It's a formal meeting. You actually meet. The first 20 minutes is business, and then you toast. Can you all see that? You toast.
Oh,
You toast to the absent brethren, and then you go on to the libations after, where everybody just has great conversation. You talk about what's going on in the community, what things you can do. That lodge, my family lodge, actually just raised $75,000 in a fundraiser to help the homeless in the community. Like that, I mean, they're still doing that stuff. They're not allowing the pandemic to set them back significantly. So I look forward to our jurisdiction, as Kevin would put it. I'm not going to put it as eloquently as he does, but hopefully they start making strides in the direction where we can really address the needs of Masonry. And it's good to be with you all. Thank you, Worshipful, for the opportunity to be here and to say something to my brethren. It's good to see all your faces. Some of you I have not met or haven't seen in a long time, but I look forward to us all connecting again. And Xerxes, my brother, it's good to see you. I see you've changed. You've migrated from items with beads attached to them waving in your background to now a much more respectable view. So it's good to see you. Thank you, Worship.
and Ray, I'm glad you could join us, even if it was the end. I have recorded this, so I will be posting it, and you'll be able to catch the whole presentation sometime tomorrow or after.
Thank you.
I promise.
Do I have permission to share this with my brothers here in
Yeah.
the lodge?
Yeah, Xerxes, I will send you the YouTube link once it's up and posted for you.
Okay, thank you so much. I
Absolutely.
love this presentation and it's
Absolutely.
a lot of great points. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Brethren and guests, any other questions, comments?
Kevin,
I-
can I say something? I put out a newsletter down here, which is something that the lodges in Mississippi don't do, and I've started one down here in Central South. And if anybody would like to get a copy of it, just send me your email. And mine is xerxes.zeno@gmail.com. I'll be more than glad to add you to it. Thank you.
Drop that into the chat. There, everybody should have it. Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, Kevin, I guess Worshipful, sorry. I guess
You
I'd
can
like
call
to
me Kevin, it's okay.
I have a hell of a time, heck of a time I'm doing.
You
So,
don't need to be formal.
right, Worshipful Brad, I want to say this. I think that I got the dress thing, I got the decorum thing, I got the dues thing. But the other parts of your presentation, I think, were equally impactful. Meaning that the journey of being selfish and allowing yourself the, shall I say, the construct to build your skill set and your competencies in Masonry are very important. And knowing that you're okay yourself before you can start to teach the brethren is vital. So we talked a lot about dress, and we talked a lot about dues. I guess those are sporty topics, but I don't want us to lose sight of the other part of this. As Masons coming in or Masons going through the line, I think those are really important lessons. So I thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. And the dues and the dress, that's why I've dubbed them the dirty D's of Freemasonry, because nobody wants to talk about them, but we all should talk about them. So, but yeah, I mean, I thank you for the words. You know, when I think about being selfish, really the title or even the theme of being selfish in Freemasonry really came from, again, that discussion I had at the Valley. And I thought about, you know, I love sharing my opinion, but I also love having people disagree with what I'm saying so we can have a discussion. And, you know, that's one of my favorite parts about Masonic conversations. And so when I threw out this idea, and actually the original, this presentation, the original thing for it was a paper I had to write for Lexington Lodge. Yeah, and every year we have a Masonic perspectives evening where we have two brothers present some sort of perspective or something they thought of. So I presented this back in 2018, but I thought about like, what can I present on, or how can I title it in such a way to like provoke conversation and thought and discussion? And when people again hear being selfish, are like, what the hell is that? Like, why would you talk about being selfish? We're all about giving, giving, giving. But all of that to say thank you, because I think, when we put our ritual first and we put our fellowship, and we've taken care of ourselves, we can experience a different level of fellowship. And we think about our education and our leadership and why we want to do these certain things, putting ourselves and making sure that we're stable and proficient in the things that we need to do is just certainly going to create a better overall experience for everybody. And really that's the hope here is, by being a selfish Mason and that some of the sense of, words and topics we talked about tonight is going to create a better experience for Freemasonry in general. So thank you.
And Brad, thank you again. I don't think we have anything else, so we will go ahead and wrap up. Again, Brad, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking time away from your family this evening to talk to us. And brethren, we will be back again next month on Monday, March the 15th. And we'll have Brother Adam Goldman giving a speech, giving his talk next month. So again, thank you for everybody coming out. Brad, again, thank you. I really appreciate it. Everybody have a good night. Behave yourselves. Be selfish, but not too selfish.
If I behaved myself, I wouldn't have any fun.
That's true. I know, Xerxes.
Thanks, brothers. Good night.
Yep. Brad,
Take care,
thank you
brothers.
very
Thank you.
much. Have a great
Thank you,
night.
brothers.
Take
I'll
care,
see y'all
guys.
soon.